Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Artist Talk of Visual Arts Week. We're here to discuss an important new temporary artwork coming to Eugene entitled Culture Raising. My name is Kate Ali, and I'm the Public Art Manager for the City of Eugene, and I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. We want to start by acknowledging that since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as the Kalapuya Alihi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We acknowledge the inherent political sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribal nations in the state of Oregon and all American Indian, Alaska Native people who live here. Culture Raising is a temporary public art project that runs along a 100-foot fence line in the new Riverfront Park. The artwork brings awareness to the Native American people and cultures in our community. Through this installation, the public will see larger-than-life faces of Native American people who live in our community. Half of each elder's face is matched with a youth or young adult face, representing the past, present, and future of the cultures and emphasizing unity. This project was made possible by an open call to artists last year utilizing City of Eugene urban renewal funds. The installation of the images invited young adults of historically underrepresented backgrounds, cultures, and demographics to literally raise awareness of our Native American neighbors by working together to install the images of the Native American elders and young adults who the Indigenous artist TJ photographed. A video of the installation will be produced by Gregory Black, and the project was managed by artist Charly Swing of Art City. The artwork will be available to view this fall when the Riverfront Park is open to the public. The discussion about this new important artwork in our community will be facilitated this evening by Lori Tapahonso. To ask questions, please use the comments function on your screen. Lori, goes by the pronouns she, her, hers, is a citizen of the Navajo Nation and also raised a Kama Pueblo. She's currently the Longhouse Steward, the Native American Student Program Coordinator, and full-time faculty at Lane Community College. She manages the development and implementation of programming specifically geared towards Native American students at the college. In her position, Lori teaches Native American Leadership College courses and produces a summer youth college readiness program for Native American high school students in Lane County. Lori comes to Lane with a strong background in administration and as faculty at several tribal colleges and universities, including Dene College, Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute, and Haskell Indian Nations University. Outside of Lane, Lori is a public relations specialist, a consultant, a storyteller, a jeweler, and an actor. She's the mother of 2 adult children, Chamisa Ba and Brianna Nesba, and is married to James Snyder, who is pursuing a PhD in education at the University of Oregon. We're lucky to have her in our community and joining us here tonight. And with that, I'll hand it over to Lori.
Hello, everyone joining. I'm so happy to be here. Lori Lori Tapahonso Yenisha, Toruk Ojanishle, and Shihi Bashichin, Torich Eatni Dashichena, Kaidena, and Dashinala, Ntanines Danasha. I'm also blessed to be raised in the Acoma Pueblo culture. So I also want to acknowledge that part of myself. I'm actually with you tonight from Albuquerque, New Mexico being my home. And I'm so honored to be able to be here with you to talk about this important project. So I want to thank everyone for joining us in our evening discussion about culture raising in Eugene. And for those of you outside of Eugene, following our conversation tonight, I want to encourage you to imagine how similar projects might work to raise up the cultures of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, also known as BIPOC members within your own communities. So let's get to it. This evening, we have a wonderful panel of guests that include the young Indigenous artists whose concept that spurred this project, the Indigenous community members who lent their images to the project, and the young adults who helped to raise our Indigenous community by installing the artwork. So what I'd like to do, without any further ado, is allow our panelists that are here to introduce themselves. So if you can take a look at the screen, I'd like to, if we could, start with Tenapa.
Hi, I'm Tenapa Brainerd, also TJ as the artist. I go by she, her, and I'm Coos and Apache.
And we'll go with
sophomore in college. My bad, sorry.
And Tenapa, where are you going to college at? I think that's very important.
Yeah,
the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and you're doing that virtually right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go ahead and go to let's start with your left.
Closhi Chaco, Nika Yul, Saavista, Nika name Brenda Brainerd, Nika Kopa, Silku, Squid, Sushlatal, Malik, Talikam, Ina, Talikam. Hello, good day. My tribal name is Shavesta, but my given name is Brenda Brainerd. I'm an enrolled member of the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, Sayusla. I am Milik Coos from the south side of the river.
And Tenapa, to your left or to your right?
Hello, my name is Joe Brainerd. I'm Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I enjoy my time here. Thank you for having us.
All right, let's move on down the couch. Yeah.
Hello, I am Charly Swing. I am a social practice opportunity artist and the founder of Arts City. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
Yep, and to your right.
Oh, hi, my name is Allison. I helped with the project.
Okay, and we have some panelists joining us, like myself, virtually. So we can go ahead and go down our list there. Anybody can jump in.
Nimech Las Matalia, Yali no Jume, Nanotoka Matt Olmos, Juan Ninawa Zacatecas. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Matthew Olmos, and I'm a Nawa who has ancestry in Zacatecas. I was honored to be part of this as a photography subject.
Okay, next.
I think I'm next. My name is Gregory Black, and I'm one of the filmmakers and still photographers, and just help with the project to help push it forward, working with Charly.
Wonderful. And do we have any more panelists that maybe I don't see here? Are we all? Yes, Charly.
Patricia Norman Donahue will be joining us when she's able to, and she'll sit next to Brenda.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll welcome Patricia when she gets here. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking time to be here tonight to help us learn a little bit more about this incredible project, but also about their experience with it, because I think what the project itself is pretty unique. I mean, I had to sit there and think about what is culture raising. We have a link that hopefully maybe Kate, you can pop into the chat as well, so that folks who are joining us and want to maybe understand a little bit more about the project and look at the images. Here's one beautiful image we have here of the finished project. But the website has a wonderful description that kind of gives an idea and a sense of how this came to be, and it has TJ's words for just the description of how it was envisioned. So when you have time, maybe afterwards, take a look at it, or if you'd like to kind of browse that while we're talking, that would be great. I have a couple of questions that I want to just kind of toss around to our panelists. And if there are, I may give you one person a question, but if you feel like you'd like to add, pop your hand up. Don't be shy. This is a space where we all want to learn from each other, and every one of us who's participated in this project has a different perspective. Even if we are both Indigenous, even if we're both, non-native, we have different perspectives of what it was like to plan, what it was like to actually install the project, and then also what it was like to just work around folks who were different from maybe who we work with every day in our jobs or at school. So I want to talk to. Let's start with Allison. I have an interesting question for you. Okay, so we'll start with Allison first. She's gonna be the first one to talk to us about what it was like to come in to help install the project. What was that like? Maybe I want you to tell us, maybe just when we're seeing that image, what was it like to actually put that together? What were your directions, and what did you envision it to be like, and then what was it actually like?
Well, I envisioned it to like look really nice, and so like the end project, when I saw it at the end, it did look really nice, and I just like I thought of it like I was part of it, so that was like too nice to look at, that like I helped do that, like helped to be part of this project. And it was nice getting to be part of this project because I got to meet like a lot of new people, and they were really nice. So, yeah, it was a great time.
So when you look at the installation now and the images we saw, do you think that your perspective of this culture that we've raised up has changed from what you thought before or what you knew before, and how?
I guess I would say like I feel like I'm not well educated enough, so I feel like this was like a nice piece to look at, even though it's just like it's not enough, like there's not enough representation, but it was like a good symbol, like we're getting somewhere, and it was nice to look at.
Okay, great answer. So TJ, I want you to kind of help us to understand your vision for this project. What was your vision in terms of what we see now and how it got to that? What were you thinking about when you created this image?
Originally, when they asked me, they just told me to take pictures of people, and it originally wasn't during lockdown, so I took pictures of my family, and I feel like not the whole body can tell a story, but some parts of it can tell more, I guess you can say. So I thought maybe like half of it would be a better story to understand, essentially close up to the eyes as well, which kind of like tell your whole story, your soul, essentially. And so originally I just took pictures of hands and eyes, because I feel like those can tell a lot. And then afterwards we thought, since half the face was probably a good idea, to use like half of it to be old and new. And I could see that happening with how I took pictures of not only my parents, but also my tutors, who are just graduated from college. So I guess the vision turned out from using not only the eyes that have a story, but also the eyes of different ages.
And so when we look at the image, I had to really kind of look closely, because some of them look like it was the same person. So can you tell us a little bit more about that concept that you used?
Originally the people I did not know, but afterwards we started realizing that most people were using were like their parents and the kids, essentially. And so we thought the idea of what if we take, the new generation, the old generation, with also putting an idea that's a family kind of generation thing. Whereas like the family who has been through something the kid never has, and then seeing how their eyes change over time.
Great. Okay. And then for our participating artists who helped TJ, sorry about that, who helped TJ, what was it like to pull this project off during COVID? And we can start, whoever'd like to start.
I can speak to that. It was a great big challenge with COVID, to outreach to the community and to bring people to the project who were not familiar with this type of culture raising. Like you said, Lori, you really needed to think about what this is. And so when something is new and people are a little bit hesitant to just jump in sometimes. And then also, not only was it COVID, but it was also during the marches for Black Lives Matter. So a lot of the people that we were outreaching to were very busy with very important issues that they were working on. So, bringing the various different communities together who are culturally marginalized was a huge challenge. And then photographing people during the people who we did outreach to and came on board, photographing them was a huge challenge because TJ needed to be safe in her family situation. And so that was, how do we photograph when she's not really able to be with the people? So we figured that out, and she ended up doing that online mostly.
And we have folks who have been photographed, right?
Yes.
TJ? Yes. Okay. So I want to ask our photograph participants specifically this question, because I think what tends to happen, especially when we're outside of our communities as Indigenous people, we really have to work hard to make sure that we're protective of ourselves, but also our family and our community, so that we're not exploited, our images aren't exploited. So I want to really maybe ask first our photograph participants, but also our artists who helped this come to life. What was that hurdle like? What was it like to get folks to want to be part of or to lend their image? Because I think, TJ, you're spot on. When we photograph ourselves, or when we, especially with our regalia or with things that are sacred to us in our culture, we are very protective of that as Indigenous people. And it's not just tribal, folks in the United States, but all around the world. We protect our culture. Sometimes, we have to be extremely protective of that. So what was that like, that hurdle to get folks to want to be part of this and to lend their image to a project that was going to be front and center, in Eugene, Oregon, for everyone to look at and see, especially our eyes, especially our face? What was that like, TJ? And then I'll toss this question back to our participating artists.
So asking me first, sorry. I didn't, but I guess I was essentially a little scared when it came on showing people's faces, because I have a little bit of terrification comes to that. But I always thought that, half a face isn't too much to be like a full-on fingerprint. So I thought maybe that aspect too would be very helpful. And I guess just some hurdles have to be overcome now, and then see what happens in the future.
And our participants, our photograph participants.
Yeah, a large part of it for me really was engaging in a dialogue and having a discourse, not only with the intent of the piece, but also with the people who were behind it and were kind of setting up the entire process itself. As you brought up, the idea of exploitation or co-option is a very unfortunate reality that we have to face, and is a very real hurdle that we often find in front of our path in navigating the greater world in some ways, artistically and socioculturally. So the fact that there was a very open dialogue and a very clear intent and a very obvious through line from conception to execution that made it feel like it was something that was very respectful, came from a place of understanding, and was about, perpetuating anything but what we're used to. That was kind of the safe haven of it.
Good. Okay. You said something very interesting. We're going to circle back to open dialogue. Charly, or any other participants, photographed participants, want to jump in and answer this?
Well, I'll say I'm not very comfortable at all being photographed, period. And it wasn't something I would have ever volunteered to do or put myself out there to do. Usually I'm behind the camera myself rather in front of it. But because I wanted to support, our daughter and have her do as much as she could to stretch herself and, to practice her art. She loves photography. And from my point of view, I feel like she's been raised in a very cultural home, a very traditional home. So I knew she would, make this happen in a good way, that she wouldn't exploit people, that she would be kind when she asked, that she would ask in a good way, and that she would take pictures with a good heart. And so that was really important to me. And the biggest surprise to me at the end of this, because Tenapa and I have split faces, the biggest surprise to me at the end of this is that by splitting that and putting our faces together, for the first time, I was truly able to see how much we look alike and how much she is my daughter, because I don't think that sometimes people see us that way. And so I just participated in this to give Tenapa a chance, but now I really honor her work, and I'm so much more involved or proud of all the work of all the artists involved, everyone that came together to make this happen, because it didn't feel exploitive. It felt very loving and it felt very worthwhile. So I was resistant at first and very happy at the end.
Good. Yeah. Good. Anybody else have anything to add on that?
Yes.
If I may speak, I'll be glad to say something.
Yeah.
When she asked me to post with her, I paused for a moment because I don't allow too many people to take pictures of me, not comfortably anyway. But I realized that she was in our home and our culture and the way of life for us there. And to see her, you'd have to see all of us. And for us to share our culture, you had to be full circle. And to me, standing with her made it come full circle, to be able to see us for who we really are and who we represent. We are First Nation. And I wanted people to see that.
And might I add one more thing here, Lori?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it shows our culture so well, because when this first started out, it was going to be just like, maybe just a young person's project or this or that. But the fact that our culture is from, cradle to passing, our culture is cradle to walking on, that the melding of elder to youth, I think that's the biggest expression you could say about our culture. So
I agree. And I want to thank you three. I want to thank your parents, TJ, for sitting with you. And I know that I think maybe the whole concept and COVID and, social distancing and the fear of being in public with people who were not part of our bubble probably would have, had you thinking twice about even doing this if your family and your parents didn't support you as much as they did. And I think that's a great example of what our cultures have taught us. And you're absolutely right, Brenda, that this is a great demonstration. Hopefully through those images, it'll have people ask others, or maybe, somebody comes to see and show their relative on the display there in, with the installation. And then folks would ask and talk about it. Go back to that open dialogue. Charly and others who were part of the creation, or maybe the facilitation, not the creation, but the facilitation of the project. How did you have that open dialogue? How did you get to the point where you understood that was extremely important? Because a lot of what I get from folks when they have an art project, even a community art project, the call goes out, you've got people who are just willing to volunteer for things, you can find folks who are willing to participate and lend, especially to art projects or part of artist communities. Eugene's a great one. But when you have that extra facet where it's a cultural project, specifically with a community that, you know, you've got so many different layers that you have to maneuver through. How did you get to the point where you were able to help facilitate the completion of this project? Open dialogue. That's kind of where this was going. How did you get to that point?
Greg, would you like to speak? You haven't spoken yet.
Well, I think from the very concept and the very beginning of it, what I marveled at was it shows humanity. It shows the other side of people's lives that sometimes we overlook or marginalize because we don't know. We don't know about other people's cultures, and sometimes we are locked in our own brains about what we think it is until we actually see it. And for that to be shown and expressed, it's dynamic, because I think that's what's missing on the planet, is understanding other people's humanity inside of where they live, not where you think you live, is to basically zip your lip and be able to listen and understand somebody else's culture, and not add your stories on top, but really actually take the time to listen to what is going on. And all of a sudden your brain changes. And for me, that's kind of what happened. So I feel like where the project is now, I'm not quite finished, because I would like to do some really personal interviews to help get more of a personal story, or more of a look inside of the culture from where this culture actually started in America to where it is now. And I think be able to share that on film and to look at what we put together on the property there on the fence will make it very compelling, because we often don't slow down to listen to somebody else's story. And from the concept that Charlie had, and, you know, we have photos of us struggling in the very beginning. How are we going to make this thing work in the fence? How are we going to do this? I don't know what we're going to do. We finally, you just believe that if you speak it to the universe, something shows up to help you out. There's some idea that comes on. You might wake up in the middle of the night, go, oh, I got an idea how to make this happen. And you might seem like it's a roadblock, but it actually turns in to making it very visible and making it so that people understand who we are in this country. And I'm speaking for BIPOC people too. Who are we in this country? And what contributions have we contributed to this country that were overlooked? So that's what's important. And that's how I see the whole project. I think while I was there, I was just in the moment, and I tried to just take it all in and not say a whole bunch of anything. It was just listening to the dialect. And I think Mr. Brainerd and I kind of connected on a couple of just concepts of just connection, just being involved and having a focus on what we're supposed to do to make this project, to facilitate it being installed, and to step back and look at it. It's marvelous. It is marvelous. And I think you're going to have to pass out some napkins, because people are going to be drooling when they see their mouths are going to be hanging open, and they're going to be drooling on themselves, and they're going to have to wipe themselves, because this is an amazing project.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. It looks amazing. It does. And Charlie, you have anything to add?
Yeah. Greg said some well, he always says some very, he speaks so eloquently always, but you said some very specific, you do, Greg, very specific things that are important to the piece. That he said that it's not finished for him. Actually, the piece is not finished. So much of what the piece is about the continuing to raise up this culture, right? And for the people to come together to do that. So it will be very interesting to see how perhaps events happen around the piece. We don't know what that will be, but much of what the piece was intended to do was for marginalized people to come together and raise up another community. So we do hope that that will continue to happen. Perhaps there will be more pieces like this. Perhaps more artists will come forward and photograph their people. And what Greg, the other key word that Greg said was connection. So it really is about, I think there tends to be, especially in our culture at this moment, it seems very prevalent, or our big, broad culture, is this tendency to think about ourselves. And really what this piece is about is coming together with others who we don't know and getting to know each other and building that connection. That connection is what Greg mentioned that he achieved. And I think Allison spoke about it really well also, about how she developed connections with people that she really had not had the opportunity to connect with before. So so the facilitation, it's up now for the community. So now the piece really belongs to the community, and it's up to the community to continue growing this culture raising.
Great, thank you so much. That's incredible. We have some images coming up, and I just want to go back, and as we start to talk, I really want to talk about just briefly about the technicalities of this. Can anyone tell me and the audience what are we looking at here? Although we see these beautiful images, what are we looking at? What went into actually installing this? What are we seeing here?
Well, if I can get the videos edited up and given to you, then it'll be news at 11. You'll get to see all of the hard work, the scaffolding, the camaraderie, the questions of how we're going to make this all come together, how we're going to put it together, what's it going to look like, and which pieces and which parts are actually going to work, and then step back and look at it. So I have a lot of that footage that I shot and just stories that people shared while they were putting this together is also inside of that footage. So I say it's news at 11. But it's just one of those, there was tremendous amount of I felt humbled after it was put in, because I got to witness a culture that I think the dominant culture might have maybe slipped a few lies in my historical aspect of what Native people are. And I think afterwards, I'm like, there's some people lying to me about these other people. These other people are for real. They're human. They are for real. And their culture is trying to be destroyed. I'm like, this is what is going on the platform of America. These are people that are been here since day one, and they basically saw people land on this continent, and I think that was a purposeful division until I actually saw it, and I went, wait a minute, and then the truth comes out and you go, oh boy. And for me, that kind of, I don't have much hair, but my hair stood up on my head when I realized that, this is for real. This is for real. The humanity is there, and we need to know more, and people need to just put down some of the misinformation that they have been told, and really get to know people for who they are, what they are, and how their culture actually works. And that was the eye opener for me.
Great.
I don't know about anybody else, but that was the eye opener for me.
Yeah. So what did you use? What was the medium?
So the material is, so what you're looking at when you see the whole piece, there are 25 sheets, 4x8 sheets of coroplast. Coroplast is the same material that yard signs are made out of. So political signs or realtor signs. So it's made to be outside. It's known to be able to withstand the light and the UV. And so those 25 4x8 sheets were cut into 33 1 1/4 inch wide slats. So every slat was 8 foot tall and 1 1/4 inches. And what we did is we set up scaffolding, and everybody here worked together to slide those slats down into the fence so that the artwork is actually integrated into the fence. And Brenda was one of the team leads on that, and Joe helped really make sure that the scaffolding was all safe, and it was a really great team effort.
If I might say something about the pieces, what I found so profound was each piece by itself did not show anything. You know, each 1 1/4 inch piece, when you looked at it, it really meant nothing. And we started in the middle and went to each side. And the side I was on to the left, we were moving pretty fast. We had 4 or 5 people on our team, and we were just threading them right down. And what was so fascinating, beyond what the technical material was or how it was cut or how it was divided, I wasn't involved in any of that. But what I found so fascinating is each piece represented something you didn't understand. You didn't know what it was. You couldn't figure it out. And that's the way I think we are as humans. We're multiple pieces all put together. And you had to get a few feet to see how it was going to work. And so just like when we grow as people, this picture grew as you got more pieces into it. Like when we get more things in our life, we kind of continue to grow. And I'm not sure that people just looking at that fence would really reflect on that. But putting together, it makes you see how it takes many, many pieces to make a community. It took all the pieces of all the pictures to see everybody on that fence. You couldn't just see them in one little instant or one little snapshot, but as a community with every piece of the picture or the puzzle there, it made it complete. And being able to put the fence together made it come together in a way that people looking at it, I just don't think can see.
Right. And that is what culture raising is, right? That is absolutely the definition of what culture raising is. I want to go back now to each of our panels, and I want to remind our viewers, if you have questions, we're live, so if you have any questions, pop them into the comments and we will get to them for our panelists or for the artists and all of our artists. So I want to ask each of you, you've talked about it, you've alluded to it, and I think, Greg, you also talked a lot about what you learned, but I want us to think about this finished project and what have you learned since you've been able to work with maybe a group of people? I think, Allison, you kind of talked about it as well. What have you learned through this process? It could either be about the project itself or about working with people outside of your own culture, people that you've been comfortable working in and around. What have you learned? I want to, I'm going to toss this. Matthew, can you start with that question?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. A lot of what I learned really was in the process of helping put this whole installation up, working with a small cadre of other people, all with the same goal, but always deferring with a lot of just kind of ease and just kind of trying to fill everything out as a group without anybody kind of taking more precedent over another person's desire to do something necessarily. it taught me a lot about how good autonomy can work with these sorts of projects. As an artist and a musician and composer myself, I'm used to kind of the give and take of the creative dialectic. But installations are not normally this pain-free. It was rather refreshing that everybody on the same page and kind of understand what the end goal was. And it just kind of taught me not to necessarily think that you won't get the help if you just reach out for it, which I think is kind of an issue with artistic solipsism in itself, but that's a whole other discussion. So I can't hear you.
Great, thank you. Joe, what did you learn?
Talking to me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What did I learn? I learned that it was about time that people got to see the First Nation people in the community that were real. We're not invisible. I want them to see the souls of our elders and our young people, and I think those images show that. They make a statement. And I believe that it's going to make a difference in a lot of people in the community. Like everything else, some will agree, some will disagree. But the fact is that we're real, and it's right there in front of them, and they can't get away from it, and they're going to have to look at it every day. That's what I learned.
And Allison, would you like to add a little bit more? I know you talked about it first out of the gate, but do you have anything else to add?
It was really nice seeing like representation, because I don't really see much representation. So it was nice really seeing that and seeing like the learning new things as well. And it was nice.
Good. Charly?
Well, I moved to Eugene from Santa Fe. So I was actually a minority in Santa Fe, and but with the Hispanic and Native American community. And when I moved here, it was very interesting that I didn't see very many people, and all of a sudden I was a majority. So that was something that I was that I'm really happy. In fact, I was ecstatic seeing these people all together working together, because I have not experienced a lot of. I don't think there are very many. I don't think I've ever experienced so much diversity in one place where we're actually working together to make something happen. So that was an amazing experience for me. And also it was wonderful because as you mentioned earlier in the discussion about the importance of protecting the Native American community, I was very aware of outreaching to people and very respectful and very honored that people were participating. And in New Mexico, there's not a lot of, my experience was that there was not a lot of the various cultures coming together so much. Lori, you can speak about that more, but mostly there was a lot of division between the cultures. So seeing that we can be together and we can work together and we can raise up the Native American, we can stand back and raise and give a platform for the Native American community was extremely special and meaningful to me.
Wonderful, thank you. Greg?
Well, those are pretty hard to follow, those statements, because they are all very true. And I think it was the realization that the Native community is visible. And it took way too long in this community for it to be visible. And that's what I came away with. It's y'all got to excuse my French, but I'm saying it's about damn time, and that's what I was feeling. It's about time. This is what, 2020, 2021. This is a whole nother century, and we're going to do this all over again. No, it stops right here. Okay. And it's up to us as artists and people involved with other artists to say, oh no, it stops here. Okay. And y'all need to see this. And if you don't want to see it, well, you have the option of closing your eyes and walking forward. And you know what happens when you close your eyes and walk forward? You will fall. And so it's about time to give that respect and give that notion that there's some people here that know stuff that we don't know. Okay. That have culture that we don't know. And it's about time that this became a reality, especially in this community. It's about time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Brenda, last word.
Yeah. So what I learned is I learned that, my daughter's talent goes beyond my eyes. I think, her artwork is beautiful and her photography, but the fact that other people in the community saw and valued that was, it made me more confident in speaking out about her and promoting her and, making her art go forward. So that was a real, personal learning experience for me. I also learned that it's hard because as tribal people and Native people, we aren't particularly showy. We don't particularly push out or move out. And when someone asks us, there's always that question, why are you doing this? What is in this for you as opposed to what is in it for me? And to be kind of put out there without expecting anything back was kind of a big learning curve for me. And as a result of that, I learned that I need to be more involved in the local art community. This fence needs to go beyond just Native people, just Indigenous tribal people. This fence shows that all people, all cultures have stories to tell, whether it's racial or ethnic or preference. And I just really would like to see this move on into other fences and trade around, make them seasonal. And I learned that the way that happens is by me getting involved, something I would have never done before. So those were my learning experiences. And thank you. Thank you to Charly for inviting us and making it all happen. Thank you.
Right. And I think that's a great, ending to our discussion today, is that the project itself, although the first culture to be raised is the first culture. And so, we're honored with that recognition and that understanding of how important it is to as a community deal with an erasure issue that we have with Indigenous people in this world, especially in the United States. So thank you so much to Lane Arts Council for backing this project, funding it, supporting it, and allowing the community to come together to raise up the culture in a very Indigenous way, collectively. It wasn't, this is how this is going to go. I think, Matthew, you spoke to that pretty well. You said this is one of the most painless projects you've been on. And I think that as community members, when we come together and we understand and listen first, Greg, you even said that you listened first. You just listened, and without, inserting yourself into the process, you allowed it to happen. This can happen and be replicated in communities around the country. So I appreciate Eugene, Lane Arts Council for being the model for that. Charly.
I just want to clarify quickly. It is the project was actually the call came from the City of Eugene Parks Department.
Okay.
So they're the primary sponsor for this project.
That's even better. That's really important that city government backs important projects just like this and allows artists to cultivate projects that bring awareness to cultures and cultural issues. So thank you so much for Eugene, the city of Eugene, for being willing to maybe venture into territory that's uncharted. So I hope to see more of these. I'm sure we all will. We have a few questions here. Felicia, I'd love to know more about current volunteer opportunities for this project. How can I get involved? And maybe specifically about culture raising. And then Lynn also asked, how can folks in Lane County support young artists accomplish their artistic goals? I think those are two very important questions that I want to kick those to Lane Arts Council. Maybe we can, let's go ahead and can somebody jump in real quick and give us some answers to volunteer opportunities? And then also, I think the support and volunteer opportunities for young artists.
So this, yeah. Oh, Jessica, would you like to say something?
Unmute.
Oh, I think you're on mute, Jessica. That's like the tagline of the last year and a half, isn't it? You're on mute.
I think no one can see me because I'm behind a logo, but I am from Lane Arts Council. I think specific to this project, someone on the panel could relay if there's any more opportunities for this specific project, first of all. Charlie?
Well, sure. So for culture raising, this call did go out specifically seeking young artists to photograph their cultural community. We were actually hoping or thinking that it would be several different cultures, but as you said, Lori, it seemed absolutely serendipitous that the one artist who replied was TJ, and that it is the Native American culture and the indigenous people that is being raised as the first culture. So we do hope that there will be more opportunities to bring people together and raise up all of the cultures within our community, because there are many people who are not being seen, many cultures who are not being seen. And as far as opportunities with this particular piece, that is going to be really determined by the people who step forward and make events, I believe, happen with the piece. It's a public space in a park, and it's very possible that people will come forward and get permits and create activities right there. And we'll be able to have more experiences with people.
And I think we can also speak to the power of voice. So I know that there are comment sections. You can send emails to council members. You can send emails to the department, maybe thank the Department of the Recreation Department for their support. Patting people on the back sometimes helps, and it'll spur their interest in future projects like this. So reach out to your city folks for sure and let them know how much you appreciate seeing this project come to fruition. And then as far as Lane Arts Council and Art City, and Charlie, you can maybe introduce Art City a little bit more to those who don't know what Art City is. How can folks in Lane County support young artists accomplish their artistic goals?
Buy their art.
Yeah.
Validate their artistic practice by their art, so then that people care, people want to see what they're working on. That's a really good way. Another opportunity, I guess, for young artists would be our urban canvas roster through City of Eugene Cultural Services, where muralists and aspiring public artists can sign up for the roster. And the city does a really cool thing of when people come to the city and say, hey, I have a wall, hey, I have a public art project, but I don't know who to talk to, they can actually share that roster with those people. So that way, as an artist, you're not trying to find everybody and get your name out. There's a good place for people to come to for artists. I'll think of more while Charlie's talking.
So Art City's focus, well, our mission is create impact together. So what we're doing is our emphasis is to help artists utilize art to create change and address social, the issues of our time. So artists who are interested in addressing cultural issues, artists who are interested in addressing climate issues, artists who are interested in equity, any type of way that you have a vision for addressing any particular topic, or perhaps you don't actually know what the vision is, but you really have a topic that you want to address. We're here to help make that happen. So we'd love to hear from you. Our address is very easy to remember. It's artcity.art. And so you can find us there, and you have when you go to the site, you'll see some of our past events and learn how we can help you. And there's some educational material about what social practice art is. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Great. Thank you so much for our panelists. And Greg, you mentioned this is the last little bit of information we're going to leave our audience with. When will your project be ready to view?
Well, I think it depends on when I can schedule some interviews to have one-on-one discussion. I have the backing footage of what we call B-roll, of the actual installation of the fence project. But I would be very much interested in doing some one-on-one interviews. So
Great. And then once it's available, will we see it on the Lane Arts Council site, probably underneath the page?
It's very possible. We can put a link on there to be able to visualize it. And it's a click link, and it should pop up and be ready to roll as soon as it takes off.
Wonderful. And then if we could just go ahead and leave the link to the Lane Arts Council page that again has the text and the images in our comment section, so that folks who may have come in later who didn't get to see that link earlier can go to it, and then maybe bookmark it so that they can go back when Greg's project is ready for viewing. That would be great. And then also Lynn Anderson asked a quick question that I think we answer. How can young artists' art be seen outside of the usual Eugene Springfield area? This right here, technology, being able to have conversations like this that are sent all over the country and world possibly. I would love to have folks, before you leave, tell us where you're at. Tell us where you're viewing from. Just pop in your city. And as we kind of trickle off in the next minute and a half, we'll get to see some of where the folks who are tuning in are at. That's how we'll do it. Technology has been a pain in our side the last year, but it also has opened so many more doors in terms of visibility. Charlie, last word?
Yes, I would like, speaking of technology, I would like to mention the person who we can't see in the room, and that is Terry Holloway. He is a media artist in Art City, and he has set up all of his equipment and everything to make this happen. So I would like to acknowledge him. He's also a Native American person who was invited to participate, but he was busy having a child. So he brought a child into the world right as we were doing this and during the pandemic. So he's participating by making this panel conversation possible.
Well, I cheer every time I hear Terry Holloway's name, because he's my colleague and he keeps us and me running smoothly all the time. So yes, I do appreciate his help in making this happen. So, and this is a group effort. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you have questions, again, you're more than welcome to pop them into the chat before we leave, and we'll try to get someone from Lane Arts Council or Art City to answer your questions. But we appreciate you being here to support the project, and specifically TJ. TJ, have a great year in college. Have a great year at IAIA, and we look forward to seeing your artwork in the future. And again, thank you, Lane Arts Council, Eugene, Oregon, city divisions, especially the Recreation Department, Parks and Rec, and Art City for your support of this incredible project. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Evening for this rich panel discussion. Please take a look at the Cultural Services Visual Arts Week webpage for more information on how to celebrate Visual Arts Week this week. And please stay hydrated out there in the heat this week. And thank you all at home for joining us tonight.